Thank you so much to Aaron and the choir. Give it up for these guys that do that important work of opening our hearts. Well, good morning.
Good morning.
Twice in 1 month. Wow. Thank you, Reverend Don, for allowing me to be with you in this way today. And those of you tuning in online, I want to welcome you. And I want to start my time with you today by offering up an invitation. And the invitation is in the title of my talk today. Come on up for the rising. Come on up for the rising, as that great song just said, rise up. I've been thinking a lot about the resurrection, both my own and the one that we'll be celebrating on Easter Sunday. And for Jesus, it took 3 days. For me, 3 years. And the point is that whatever the time period, it's possible to rise from the dead. And it turns out you don't have to be physically dead to rise up and resurrect yourself. And I want to talk a little bit about that today. Because I think we need to, in fact, I know we need to revisit the idea of the resurrection so that it can be meaningful to us today. Right now, today. And perhaps even more important, it can be something that we can apply to our everyday living so that we can experience the benefits of this thing we call the resurrection. So let's look at the definition of the word resurrect. It starts with to restore a dead person to life. Then I found a definition that said to revive the practice, use, or memory of something. So immediately I thought, oh yeah, we can resurrect our relationship to our spiritual practices. We can resurrect our relationship to the practice of our health and exercise. And yet still another definition, to bring to attention or into use again. And how fascinating that one word can start with to restore a dead person to life and end with to bring to attention or into use again. So when we talk about the resurrection, or we're talking about resurrect, we're talking about revive, restore, regenerate, to breathe new life into. So today I want to go beyond the story of the resurrection as a man who died and brought himself back to life and consider instead, how do we bring ourselves back to life without needing to leave our physical bodies? How do we, like Jesus, experience a lightness of being? How do we experience the illumination that he was without having to experience this thing we call death? To do this, we have to look at the resurrection as a principle. This is the first time I've ever looked at the resurrection as a principle. Thanks to Ralph Waldo Emerson in my preparation last night, I thought, wow, that's a game changer. A resurrection as a principle and not just something that historically happened to one person. That today we can turn the exception into the example. And so the reason why we can claim the resurrection as a principle is because it's a law based on scientific proof, which is why I've always loved this philosophy, because initially it was called the science of mind and spirit. And I wish they never changed that title, because it turns out in 2023, the mind and the spirit are being seen as the same part of the same coin, two sides of the same coin. But think about that we can claim the resurrection as a principle because it's founded on a scientific truth, which is that everything is pure energy. And that made me think of Michael Rice. Does anybody remember when Michael Rice was brought to our center quite a while ago by Reverend Nancy? And he was phenomenal and is still phenomenal in doing the work that he's here to do called Why Is This Happening to Me Again? And he gave a talk about the resurrection, and he said something that so radically and permanently changed me, and it so immediately resonated with me as truth. I was literally taken up by it. And what he said was that Jesus's final teaching was that they can kill you, but they cannot take your life. That they can crucify you, but they cannot take your life. Why? How? Because our life is made up of pure energy, and you cannot kill energy. You know, that he translated, Michael Rice and Rocco Errico translated Jesus's words from Aramaic directly into English, only to realize that on those final moments on the cross, it certainly never resonated with me. I couldn't understand how someone who talked to the God of their understanding as their father would then think that that father would abandon them. Turns out he did not say, my God, why have you forsaken me? In the Aramaic translation, he says, for this you have saved me. For this you have used me. He understood that he was entering one of the final lessons that he was here to teach us, which is that they can kill you and they cannot take your life. And that because we're pure energy, because Jesus was able to merge with that divine Christ consciousness, he was able to rearrange that energy in a way that would make the most people recognize who he was. In body form. Illuminated, but in body form. And I always thought it was so cool that Jesus wasn't like in an alley going, psst, come here, right? He went to where the people were hanging out. He went to the water's edge to show everybody, hey, look, they can kill you, but they cannot take your life. And when you merge with the Father, look what you can do. You can rearrange your energy field and become a version of the form that you were. Apparently, he even ate some grilled fish. Why? Because he had to come down to their level in order for them to rise up to the teaching that he was trying to express to them that day. And it's really no accident that spring is the corresponding season to the resurrection, because spring in and of itself represents the resurrection. It represents rebirth. From the perspective of seasons, winter is death. Fall takes us into the dying season where everything dies, and winter is the death, the cold, dark dirt of winter. And yet, spring teaches us that that which has died can be birthed again. That which has fallen to decay can experience new life, can be transformed into something new. And so today I want to remind myself and all of you that it turns out that that's true for us as well. There is so much information online about the resurrection. You want to go into a rabbit hole, just type in the resurrection. And it's fascinating, the different perspectives, the different discussions about it, the modern day interpretations, the metaphysical interpretation. I have always been deeply inspired by the idea of the resurrection, let alone spring. How can a seed hold the totality of what it can become? How is it that life can grow out of the cold, dark dirt? How is it that that rose got stuffed into a bud, and that bud got stuffed into a seed, and there's something that blooms it into its perfection? As Ernest Holmes would say, stop asking why. Life is a mystery. Life is a mystery, and that to me is great comfort these days. And so what happens then when we ask those questions about ourselves? What happens when we ask those questions about our own lives? Let me ask you, what is ready to be resurrected? And I'm going to ask you like 3 or 4 questions. And if you're prompted to just say something out loud, I want to invite you to do that. I want to invite you to plant your seed today in the cold, dark dirt. I want to invite you to have the experience of the lightness of being that comes when we speak out a possible experience that we're not yet having, but we are promised that we could have. So what is ready to be resurrected in your own life? Where are you ready to be born again? Is it in your thinking? Is it in the way that you treat yourself, the way you talk about yourself? What aspect of yourself are you ready to let go of so that something else can take you up to a more lighter way of living? That's why that quote from Emerson is so great. The resurrection principle is the eternal manifestation of life in higher and higher forms now. I mean, wouldn't it be really wonderful to have the experience of being resurrected from the density of the human experience into just a lighter expression of yourself right now? Wouldn't it be great to be able to turn away from the broken leg that is the world of effects and turn towards that inner seed and nourish that so that you can bloom the new earth, the new design for living, and be yourself a way shower? So these are really good questions for us to ask ourselves and kind of insist on an answer. I want to encourage you, if it's not coming up in this moment, though I sense that it is, I want to encourage you to ask yourself until something rises within you. And the question is, what can be resurrected in my life? Where can I rise up? And then we move to the collective experience. And I truly believe that right here and right now, based on my personal experience and what I'm being shown, that the collective resurrection is from a belief in separation and duality into oneness. That we have the opportunity after 40-something years of practicing this philosophy, going to the classes, coming to service, going to the speakers, reading the books, that we have a chance right now as the leaders, as the way showers of the resurrection, the modern day resurrection, to rise up out of the lie of duality and stand firmly in the law of oneness. And I'm going to give you an example that I just read about that shows where we're at collectively. And it has to do with our homeless. I was reading an article, and there was an assembly member talking about these places that are showing themselves as being available for housing for those who are without shelter these days, because those at the arena will be probably let go from that place at the end of April. So we're all wondering, well, where are they going to go? And one of these assembly members was saying that there's a space in his community that could very well be of service to those seeking shelter, but that his constituents were pushing back. Do you know what that's called? Separation. That's duality. It is not the mayor. It is not the assembly. It is us. Why are we saying not in my neighborhood? You and I both know why. Maybe some of that is still dwelling in my own head and your head. It's not a judgment. It's just an opportunity to observe. And what that is, in my opinion, is that is a belief in separation. That somehow my life is going to be less than because you, a homeless person, is in my neighborhood. And we're going to go to service on Sunday and celebrate the message of kindness, love, feeding and clothing each other while going home and saying, no, not in my neighborhood. I think it's time that we unpack this in a way that's real and that we help each other do it. Because if I get invited to a panel to talk about homelessness, planting a seed, this is what I'm going to take up as my discussion. Because we cannot solve homelessness from a place of duality. We cannot solve homelessness from a place of separation. And why is it that we don't say, bring them in? Let us help these people resurrect. Let us help them restore themselves, revive themselves. Let's do what Jesus said we were here to do. Clothe each other, feed each other, help each other rise up. It's a really important question to be asking ourselves. Lastly, when I talk about come on up for the rising, I also have to talk about my new area of passion and obsession, and that is the vibrational frequency of life. You watch enough TV shows on Gaia, and wow, you can't help but be transformed with the information. Ernest Holmes would have a subscription to Gaia. If he was alive today, he'd have his own show on Gaia. And when you look at these shows and you look at what they're talking about now, you can draw the arch from 1926 to 2023, the evolution of these new thought philosophies that we call the science of mind and spirit. It's very interesting. I was just telling Reverend Don this, in the new Science of Mind book, if you look in the glossary, death and resurrection, you can't find those two words. But I have the first edition, the unedited edition, that I got the one and only time I went to a Sillamar with pencil handwriting from 1931. This is the book that you want to get your hands on. This is where he's talking about death and resurrection. And guess what else? Crystals, shamanism. And they said, oh, that's not going to work with the masses. Best we edit all that out. And that's the book that we have today, the edited version. But in this version, he talks about the resurrection. And so the question we can ask ourselves is, how do I want to feel? If you just ask yourself that question from the perspective of, I'm going to align myself with these days of the resurrection, I'm going to die to something. I'm going to allow myself to die to a way of living, a way of thinking, a way of believing, whatever it may be for you. And you know what it is. It's tapping you on the shoulder right now. And the opportunity is to use how you're feeling in that situation as a reference point to how you don't want to feel. Because sometimes I don't know how I want to feel, but I know how I don't want to feel. And that's as valuable as knowing how you want to feel. So just kind of work with where you are. For me, the resurrection today is calling on me, and I invite you into this as well, to rise up from the density of the human experience. Not to deny it, because there it is. We're living it. We have it. But that to remember that there are moments in the day and the evening when we can rise up out of that. That's where prayer comes into play. Prayer helps us rise out of the density of the experience and reimagine through our thinking a lighter way. That's what meditation allows us to do. That's what all the spiritual practices allows us to do. That's what walking in nature allows us to do. That's what yoga allows us to do. Whatever it is for you, those practices help us reconnect with those feelings that are inherently a part of our divine nature. One of them is love. One of them is joy. So let me ask you, and I invite you to just say it out loud. How do you want to feel right now? How do you want to feel?
Good.
You want to feel good. Great. That's a wonderful, wonderful start. How do you want to feel?
Content.
Content. Good and content. It's a good starting place. Now let's take it up a couple of notches.
In service.
In service. How about joy?
That's what I was going to say.
Who took our joy? I was having a couple of conversations with some people that I believe are of high consciousness. I mean, they are. And yet, they were saying, yeah, life is good, I'm thriving, I'm manifesting, but I don't necessarily feel joy. Really? Anybody else can relate to that? That there seems to be a slight search and rescue mission for our joy? Maybe because the formula was external and the things that gave us joy were mostly outside of ourselves, and when they fall away, so does the joy. That's why Ernest says it's all within. So when we talk about how do we want to feel, Think about those high vibes like love and joy and peace and forgiveness, because it's a practice. I can say I'm all about that, and I do, and then life goes, all right, well, here's a handful of practices just inside one day. So you can strengthen that muscle that says, I want to experience joy. I want to experience a lightness of being. I want to change the way I am relating to everyday experiences. So though for me it has taken 3 years for my resurrection, and I don't feel like I'm almost complete, but I'm not quite there yet, enough of me has been regenerated, enough of me has been revived, enough of me has been restored that I am able to say that it is possible. I don't know how, though I guess I could say a few answers to the how: prayer, friends, family, and just getting up every day. But it's amazing what people survive, isn't it? It's amazing what people can resurrect themselves from, be it the murder of a son, or a life-challenging disease, or sexual or physical abuse. And yet, millions of people right now are rising and have risen from those experiences. And to me, that is nothing short of miraculous. I mean, we all are experiencing some sort of resurrection that we maybe of ourselves haven't told anybody about. But there are moments, right, when you kind of look in the mirror and you go, how did I survive that? How did I survive that? That's the miracle of the resurrection. That the pilot light feels like it got blown out, but yet it has not. Sure, some people are walking around, the walking dead, as they say. And we can understand that. I was the walking dead. When my mom died, I died. But it was confusing because she was gone and I was still breathing. And I didn't understand how I could be dead, but yet I was alive. That's the kind of death that we can experience because of any particular thing that we go through in life. And yet somehow, here I am standing in front of you today, 3 years later, talking about the resurrection. So, come on up for the rising. Let's use each other and help each other come on up for the rising. And I want to invite you today to self-start your own resurrection. And you don't have to pick up the heaviest aspect. Start with the lightest so you can have some sort of victory, some sort of sense of, oh, this thing can work. I can rise up out of this thought. I can rise up out of this disharmony. I can rise up out of this feeling. I can rise up out of my separation from my fellow man and my fellow woman, because it turns out that the resurrection isn't one man's story. Turns out that today in 2023, it's humanity's opportunity. This is what Ernest Holmes says about the resurrection from 1950. This physical body, which nature has provided for our use on this plane, is real enough, or we would not have it. But it is not eternal. It is some part of the flux and flow of the activity of life upon itself on the physical plane, but it is not flesh and blood that inherit the kingdom of the next plane. This, perhaps, is what Jesus referred to when he implied that if they destroyed his physical body, he would raise up another just like it. So let's exhale, and let's take in that breath. Let's breathe new life into ourselves right now. Let us shed the old, the dying, and the decay. Let's let that skin shed and fall away from us. And let's allow ourselves, through the Word, to resurrect ourselves right here and right now. And I want you to take into your mind right now as we move into prayer, affirmative prayer, what might be calling you right now? What is seeking to be resurrected, revived, resuscitated in your life, in your mind, in your heart, right here and right now? And let us together use the power of prayer, this spiritual technology, together right now so we can rearrange our thinking, like a seed, offer it up to the laws that are always saying yes because they're laws and they don't know anything else but to be who they are. And let us therefore watch the bloom that is about to yield to this thing we call affirmative prayer. So right here and right now, together we know, because we're here together in this philosophy, in this place, we believe and we know that there's just one life. There's one love. There's one mind. There's one heart. There's one substance, this pure energy that has an intelligence within it and is moved by the presence of love. This pure energy that knows all because it is all. It is the invisible power. It is the invisible presence back behind all things, whether it is a grain of sand or the majestic northern lights, the 6 planets that are going to be in alignment tomorrow night. This is the thing itself. It is the same thing that makes this body, that builds the heart, that puts the bones and the muscles and the organs in divine right order with trillions of divine right action happening without any help from us. Let us come on up for the rising. That right here and right now we claim the I am that we are. That we rise up from this idea that we are separate from source once and for all. We realize that that is a lie. It's not true. It was marketed as truth, but we know today that we are one with our source, that we come up out of this thing and we return to it. That this body temple is sacred because it's a vehicle right now for us to use to have the experience of resurrecting ourselves into the divine I am that we are. Let us right here and right now join our thinking to amplify the power of this prayer and say, yes, I am rising. Can I hear everyone say, yes,
Yes.
I am rising. I choose to rise.
I choose to rise.
We look for areas in our lives that are calling on us to heal separation. We are seeking our own resurrection today. We are willing to let go of the unforgiveness so that more of that lightness of being can take hold of us. Something has to give. You cannot hold on to the rock and rise. You must choose. And if you're not ready to choose, that's okay. You're still a part of this prayer. You're still being massaged and worked over by the power that is love. So I declare right here and right now that this community leads the way in rising. That this community, each one of us, goes out as the way shower. That we ourselves move out from the alleys and walk along the water's edge where all the people are and declare there is only one, and we are it. Let us ask ourselves, what is mine to do in this thing we call homelessness? How can I be of service to help my fellow man in the spirit that Jesus proclaimed thousands of years ago, and the many since then that have proclaimed the same truth, that we are our brothers and sisters' keeper? I see homelessness healed. And I see it healed because I know we have the potential and the power and the tools to heal separation from each other. And when we heal separation from each other, when we all step into the truth that the law of oneness is, homelessness and all these other afflictions will naturally be healed because they only exist in the world of duality. And so I am grateful for this philosophy. I am grateful for people like Ernest Holmes and all the New Thought thinkers at the turn of the century that stepped out of the box of religion and church and dared to think a new thought. Because of them, we stand here today. Let us have the same courage and the same faith to think a new thought and to lead the way out of the collapse and into the new design for living, where everyone is fed, everyone is clothed, and everyone is housed. It is an inherent right of our expression here on this earth. And so now with a grateful heart, we see ourselves as the gardener, as the farmer. We take this word, we take the word that we've been speaking within our own mind and heart today, we plant it in the dirt of the finite mind and the infinite mind. The finite being our own, the infinite being the divine. And like any good farmer, we know that that seed will bloom a bloom. We look forward to it. We prepare for it. We see it in our mind's eye. And together we say, and so it is.